Hi, and welcome to the first I Can Make That series video. I'm Emily, and I hope you are ready to watch me be extremely indecisive. Today, I'm going to try and replicate the container that I got at Ikea that I love, that I hold all of my paper trimmers and scissors and glue guns and tape runners and everything. So I just got this box from Echo Park, and I decided that it would be perfect to try and copy the IKEA design and make it myself. I am about 2.5 hours away from IKEA, so I didn't want to go to IKEA just for this, because you know how it happens. You go to IKEA and then you get lost and then you spend $1 million. So I have decided to try to make my own because, one, I'm extremely cheap and I don't want to drive 2 hours to go get this or pay $10 in shipping because I don't like to pay shipping. So I took the container apart, and really the whole idea behind the series is using what you already have to create something else or be inspired by something that someone else has made and turn it into something that you can customize. So I've glued this box shut. I cut it in like a third of the way down so that I can make 2 different levels similar to the IKEA one. So I'm making sure that I used a ton of glue to make sure it really, really held, because I'm going to hold things in there that are on the heavier side, like sticker books and 12 by 12 paper pads, things like that. So I really wanted to make sure everything was really sturdy. So I used about, I think, 15 glue sticks making this because I did not want this sucker falling apart. So the next thing I have is just an Amazon box, which we're in the middle of a pandemic, so everybody has Amazon boxes right now. So I just am going to cut all the little flappy sides off, and I am going to save those because I'm going to use them. So there's the bigger, taller one. Then I use the smaller one. And I'm going to extremely glue those in place as well and glue them to each other. And I am going to do something a little later that is going to make it a lot more harder. So I'm gluing everything down really, really well. This is the only part in my head that I had in mind. You'll see where the indecisiveness starts because it gets really messy. So I didn't go into this project being like, I'm going to make something that looks exactly like this IKEA box. I'm going to make it look super finished. I wanted to just create something that I could have fun with. And when I look at it, I'd be like, yeah, I made that. Like, I wanted it to look like I made it, not that I had bought it in the store. So those 2 are in. There is a little gap on the side, which is very different from the one from IKEA. So I'm using one of those sides from the boxes to make an extra little compartment, which I figure I'll probably put 6x6 paper pads in there, but I am yet again putting a ton of glue. I also am using glue to finish on the bottoms of it, and you'll see where when I glue it down, I use an extra little piece of cardboard to kind of smooth things and really make sure there's a lot of glue there, because like I said, I do not want this thing falling apart. The next thing I'm going to do is I kind of shaved it down so it is even, and I'm going to use the little inserts there, but those are not the size that I wanted them for. I wanted to put like 6x4 cards in there, and I wanted to put 3x4 cards in there for my project life. So I'm going to make sure that those cards will fit in there. I don't need the little tiny one for the project that I'm wanting to do with this. So I found another piece of cardboard that I had laying around, and I'm going, just to make sure that I put things in there correctly, I glued them in really, really well. Sorry I fast forwarded this, but this video was going to be really long if I didn't go super, super fast. And I'm going to use a lot of hot glue to make sure everything is in there. I'm not being super, 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 it's sloppy. I know that it's sloppy. I know it looks kind of rushed, but like I said, I'm making this not to look perfect, and I'm trying to make it look homemade. So there is the finished thing. I'm really, really happy with this. Honestly, I probably would have been fine just leaving it like this, but I wanted to get really, really creative, and this is where the indecisive part starts. So I was going to paint it, and then I was like, I'm not going to paint it because there's a lot of patchiness. The glue is going to look really weird with it. So I decided I had an extra piece of really long fabric that I'm going to just, to give it some stability, I'm going to just Mod Pod a whole bunch of fabric around the whole thing to really make sure this thing's not going anywhere. The Mod Pod is going to give it, the fabric, a little bit of a stiffness so that it makes it a little harder, and all the pieces would kind of work in there together. Now I had this in my head, okay, I'm going to put this fabric around the whole thing and I'm going to go from there. So I didn't Mod Podge the outside of the fabric, only the parts that were going to be connected, I did that. Just because I didn't want there to be too much fraying around the outside, and Mod Podge kind of changes the color if you try to paint over it. So I was really making sure that I glued the fabric down to the boxes really, really, really well. So I love Mod Podge. If you've never used it, it's really similar to like if you paper mache. It's glue, but it's not as sticky, and it really finishes things really, really well. But you really have to let it dry, or everything's going to stick to everything. So I'm just putting a little bit on the seam because I didn't want that to come up. And I'm using the paintbrush just to really make sure that everything is laying flat and nice. So this is where things got a little complicated. I was like, well, I can cut that down and put it in there. I knew that it was not going to be perfect. So I was like, I'm just going to try to make it look kind of nice and give it a little more structure in it without making it look, it didn't need to look super fancy. I have the fancy one from Ikea. This is one for just to pull out when I want to put a new collection or anything fun like that. Now I'm going to use some just cheapy acrylic paint, and I'm going to use my Vicki Boutin stencil brush, which this is the best brush. If I can find it to link it, I'll link it below. So I didn't want to keep the whole thing polka dot because I didn't want to do the whole inside polka dot. So I decided to kind of do a lot of layers. So at this point, I have no idea what I'm doing. So then I go outside and I'm like, all right, I finished it a little bit. Now I'm going to spray paint it. So I had white, navy blue, and silver. So I'm just going to literally probably put about 100 layers of spray paint on this thing. So I'm just showing you quick videos of the way I've gone. I didn't film any of it because I would have spray painted my phone. So I'm just putting kind of light streaks. I'm not spraying anything really hard. Just kind of going over it really fast, putting polka dots, putting long streaks. I got some black paint out and splattered it. That's what those little dots there are. Later, I do kind of work those out with a baby wipe. So I'm going to do that right now and kind of give it an extra. I did find a little gold paint, so I put some gold. I did a little bit of white. I wanted it to have a really weird like finish. I know that sounds strange, but I wanted it to look kind of metally and metallic-y, like it wasn't a perfect thing. I know in a lot of my like scrapbooking, I like really try to make things perfect, and I really wanted this to be fun. So then I was like, what covers up crazy messes? Stenciling. So I got out this really old stencil I had that I never used because that's why it looks so beautiful. And I just started stenciling it. And this is when my little brain was like, oh yeah, I got this. So I really just started stenciling it, and I stenciled this whole thing. And it is starting to look really, really, really cool. This is the point where my husband goes, oh, that looks great. Stop doing anything. Leave it alone. But I didn't leave it alone, and you'll see that I just kept going. So I really, really love this stencil. I've never used it. This is a rose gold finish, matte finish with, not matte finish, something rose gold that Vicki Boutin has made. It's a glaze. That's what it is, glaze. So I just started brushing this gorgeous rose gold pink all over this thing. And the more I put on, the more I loved it. But I didn't want to cover up too much of the stenciling, and I did notice that some of the stenciling probably wasn't dry all the way because I'm really impatient, but I kind of liked how it went gray in some areas. So I'm just lightly dusting the pink all over it, and then I found some gold tissue paper, and I was like, I'm going to put some gold down. So I started Mod Podging gold tissue paper down, and I started doing that all over, and like if there was a spot that was really messy, I put that down. Then I put some gold on top of the gold that was also a Vicki Boutin gold print. So this is the final product. I actually really love it. I did a little bit of star stenciling on top of it. I'm super happy with it. I know that it looks a little bit of a hot mess, but I'm good with it. I think that it is perfect for what I need, and I'm very happy with it. If you try this project, please tag me on Instagram. I'm going to put my Instagram that you can tag me in it. I'd love to see what you've created. This was super, super fun. See, it's going to fit all my cards, and if you have any ideas of things that I could try to make, put them down in the comments and give me a thumbs up if you like this series. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!